Good evening. My name is Sarah McCormack from Soroptimist Mullingar District, and I am your MC for this evening. A very warm welcome to all of you who are joining us for this, our Soroptimist Mullingar District virtual celebration of International Women's Day. I must say I'm actually quite excited, despite the fact that this is a virtual celebration. Because today at lunchtime, when I looked there, I saw there were over 225 of you joining us for this celebration this evening. And even more so, that when I looked across there at all of you that are joining us, I could see, first of all, the great support that's from Mullingar and Westmeath, of course, our loyal county and town there. But then when you look across, we have great representation from many of the counties across our country. And then moving up to Northern Ireland, delighted to see so many of you coming in and joining us this evening. And then crossing across the water, we actually have plenty of colleagues there joining us from the UK. And it doesn't even stop there. It goes out farther because we have people joining us from Washington and New York. I know it's your lunchtime over there, but here it is joining us tonight for our celebration of International Women's Day. So I will say a very happy Women's Day to all of you that are here. And in that, and in our audience, we look across there, delighted to be joined there by two of our local ministers, Minister Robert Troy and Minister Peter Burke. And also delighted to see there to be joined by our national President, Mary Kerr, all the way down there in Wexford. So wonderful to have you all here as part of that family. And what I can say to you is that we have a great programme lined up for you, a programme that is a great mixture of information, inspiration, and sure, it wouldn't be coming from Mullingar without a bit of song and music. So we have all that entwined in our programme tonight. So all that's left for you to do is now just to sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. And you can see all of us here, the panelists, but we can't see you. So you can enjoy it in the comfort of your own home. So to get our show on the road, let's pull back those virtual curtains. And it is my greatest pleasure to introduce to you our Soroptimist Mullingar District President, Anne Melly.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And I would like to join with Sarah in extending a very warm Mullingar welcome to everybody that has joined us. We're really thrilled with so many people being able to celebrate this event with us. And I suppose that's one of the positives of virtual events. We can reach out much wider. So as well as our Mullingar community, as Sarah has said, we have people joining us from all over the world. So what a year it's been for everybody, and little did we know that on this day last year, when we sat down in the comforts of the Bloomfield House Hotel in Mullingar to celebrate International Women's Day, that it would be the last in-person gathering that we would have for 2020. And I think at that time, the first COVID case had been confirmed in Ireland, but I don't think any of us realised the change that that would bring about over the months and indeed the year ahead. So this year, International Women's Day theme is Choose to Challenge. And what struck me when I saw it first was that none of us chose the challenge that we're all dealing with at the moment, but we've had to embrace it. And I suppose in tackling it, we've had to deal with a whole host of other challenges. And for women all over the world, I think those challenges have been very varied and very challenging. Those of you of my generation will probably remember newsreel clips from the wars gone by, with the role that women played in wars, and I suppose particularly munition factories and in field hospitals. And I think it's only really in very recent years and decades that their role has been really recognised and acknowledged. But in 2021, when we deal with this pandemic war, the balance has completely shifted. And I think when you consider that the largest percentage of our healthcare essential workers, and indeed essential workers in all other services, they're all women. So I think there's no doubt about the importance and the contribution that women are making at the moment. And you know, in saying that, it's important to remember that aside from the day job for all of those women, that they are all, you know, daughters, many of them are mothers, their sisters, their friends, their aunties, their grandmothers, their grandchildren. So they have that magnitude of challenging both the home and the work environment at the same time. So I think it's important for all of us tonight, maybe in the comfort of our own home, just to recognize and applaud all of those essential frontline workers who are keeping us all safe and well at this time. I know there are many of them online tonight, so a very big thank you from all of us for all that you have done and all that you continue to do. So moving on and talking a little bit about what life has been like for Soroptimists in Mullingar over the last year. I mentioned that our last get together was for International Women's Day last year. And I suppose we spent the following few months keeping in contact with each other to check in that everybody was okay. I think, truth be told, we probably lamented a good bit about what we were dealing with and what we were facing. And our focus was at all times was when we meet again. So thankfully, with some of the easing of restrictions during summer months, small groups were able to meet outdoors. And I think that was great. But as the autumn came in, I think the reality dawned, and we knew then that, you know, we were in this for the long haul, and that we would have to embrace the whole world of remote communication. So we took that on in September, and I think if any of us had said to each other that we would try and organise a virtual event for International Women's Day, I think we would have looked at each other in horror. But we've come a long way with a little help from our friends, and we're getting on with things. Towards the end of last year, we were involved in supporting the worldwide campaign to stop violence against women. And that was really important at this time because we had all been hearing about the escalation in violence against women during the pandemic. The other thing that we did towards the end of the year, we were very committed to supporting our charities locally, and we knew that charities had been a huge victim of the pandemic as well. So we made a commitment to try and continue that support, and we set a very ambitious target of raising €10,000. I can tell you that at this time we have probably we have there, you can see on screen, we've reached about 7,437 at this point in time, which is really marvellous. This is a little plug for the evening. The GoFundMe page is still open. So if anybody would like to contribute, we would be very grateful. The charities that we're supporting are St. Vincent de Paul and Team. And I think everybody's aware of the work that St. Vincent de Paul does throughout the country. But Team are a locally based charity. They provide temporary emergency accommodation for women and children in Mullingar. So at this time, I think it's very appropriate that we would do the best we can for them. Other things that we're involved in at the moment, we're working with some of our schools locally, and they are preparing young girls to participate in the public speaking competition that is a national project run by Soroptimists. And it's a great stepping stone for young girls, you know, in their development as the next generation of women. We'll also, in the few months coming, be engaging in a project to try and protect the local environment. And our really exciting time, hopefully, is going to be towards the end of the year when we celebrate our 30th anniversary here in Mullingar. So we're really looking forward to that event, and hopefully it will be an in-person event. So enough from me. Sarah has introduced the evening. We have a wealth of talent here in Mullingar, and you know, the women that are going to grace our stage tonight, both in entertainment and storytelling, I know that you will very much enjoy them. So I'm going to just invite you all to sit back and imagine that you're on a good night out and enjoy the next hour.
Thank you, President Anne. And as you know, that we have Minister Helen McEntee joining us as part of this evening as our guest speaker. But also as our speakers here this evening, we have three business ladies here from Mullingar. And those three business ladies are coming to tell us their story and what 2020 has meant to them in their business and in carrying out and, I suppose, surviving during COVID-19. Now, I want to remind you out there in the audience that you do have the Q&A box. So you can pop your questions in there into the Q&A box as they come to your heads as our speakers will be going through it. At the end of our three speakers, we will then have a Q&A panel, and we will then take some of the questions and put them through to the panel at that time. So up first this evening from those three local ladies, we have Claire O'Neill. And Claire O'Neill comes to us from Maeve Enamels, which is situated in Multifarnham in County Westmeath. Now, Maeve Enamels enamel jewellery using their own bespoke open fire enamelling method. Claire is part of a small family business there, and they actually handcraft and design jewellery, and they have beautiful silk scarves. And yes, during 2020, they added to that selection and their collection there with the production of beautiful silk facemats. So Claire, over to you to share with us your story.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and thanks for having me along this evening. It's a great privilege to be here, and thank you for having me along. So I suppose a little bit of background on us. My name is Claire O'Neill, and we're based in Multifarnham in County Westmeath. And our business, Maeve Enamels, our main craft is handcrafted enamel jewellery, and we use quite an unusual method. We actually use open fire enamel, which is quite a hot work, but it creates very unusual and unique colours, which we use for our jewellery collection. And then we also use that craft to design silk scarves, and also we have now moved into silk face masks and other silk items. So this is actually a little piece of our work here. So you can see, I'm not sure if you can see on your cameras there, but it's quite unique. And basically how it all started with my mother, Maeve, a very strong, inspirational lady who travelled to Denmark in the 1960s and saw this craft being done. She came back to Ireland then and self-taught herself how to do this craft, and basically had it as a part-time enterprise for a good number of years and a part-time income. While I was very young, I used to watch her doing this craft, and I was actually studying studying chiropractic, and this was a summer job. I went off selling the jewellery around Ireland. So that was 22 years ago. I loved selling the jewellery. I didn't carry on with the chiropractic, and at that stage I got into Showcase Ireland, which is the main trade show for craftspeople in Ireland. And we're very lucky. We got to sell in places like Kilkenny Design. One of our main shops was the Shannon Heritage shop at the Clips and Moher. I suppose it was very hands-on. I loved meeting people, the active market research, and our craft was visible. And we sold mainly to tourists visiting Ireland. So roll on 2020 and no tourists. So I suppose I have to confess that we didn't have very much of an online presence. The only place I wanted to Zoom in 2020 was out of the country. To be honest with you, fair play to the ladies for running this evening, because I had a technological block really against, I could not see our business selling online. I was very much hands-on, selling to shops, and it was terrible. So we had no tourists and no business, and I actually had to get hypnosis to get over my fear of technology. So I can really congratulate the women on what they've put together here this evening. So we were very lucky, I suppose. I got over the technological sort of block through hypnosis and the support of my friends. And we got a lot of support from the local enterprise board and obviously from the people around us. And we developed our website. I suppose we were lucky that we had a tradition. You can see my silk scarf here of producing silk and working with silk. So the natural progress for that was to produce a silk face mask. So this is one of them here. So you can see it there. Very nice. I suppose when we produced these first, sure, we didn't know who would buy them, who'd want a silk face mask. Would people just be using disposable ones? Or, you know, would people even buy them? But luckily enough, I suppose there was a demand for them. At that point, we had very little presence online. Our business had been visible to tourists, so we were starting from scratch. But I suppose it was through, more than I'm here tonight, the power of connections and dealing with people. We got very lucky. I had sent a box of items, including a silk face mask, to one of Ireland's best stylists, Emily O'Donnell. And she basically put our product on Ireland AM and made our collection visible to the people of Ireland. And it was through just connecting with people and making that effort that we got that opportunity. And it was a huge deal for us, because I'll be honest with you, I was also 40 last May, and I was crying in the bath thinking my business was gone. What's happening? There's nothing. I can't sell online. I don't have any techie skills. And we just plowed on, and through the support of other people and really the kindness of friends and this particular lady, it really, you know, it gave us such a psychological boost. It's an awful feeling to feel that you've lost what you've built up. When you work for yourself and you have a business, and I'm sure lots of people can concur with this, it's not just a 9 to 5, it's part of who you are. So it was a major deal for us to have this opportunity. So we got on Ireland AM, and it really gave us a massive boost. And obviously the silk masks took off. So I suppose if I was to say anything about 2020, it was the importance of connections with people, particularly women. And I'm sure Katie from Wolfhound will expand on this, the importance of sport. And I'm passionate about horses. I'm here tonight because of my connection to Marion Mortel, who's involved. And I think one thing about horses is it makes you very resilient. So you can be on top of the world one moment and basically in the dirt the next. So it definitely makes you resilient. But not only does it make you resilient as a person, I've met some absolutely fantastic, supportive people as personal friends, and a lot of the sports athletes that represent Ireland in equestrian supported our business. We sponsored scarves to the national dressage team that are hopefully going to be going to Tokyo, and they really were a great support. And obviously our local community, they didn't realize what we had produced, and yeah, it was just amazing, the support. So it was through the power of connections and the power of people that a business that we had successfully sold to tourists became visible online, and we were able to diversify and keep going. So I suppose I have to say we're looking forward to the future. It's going to take a long time for tourism to bounce back, and particularly people who supply shops. I know a lot of the people I work with may not be in business, but I have to say I'm very happy that we're still going. I think if you make your mind up to do something, you can do it. You have far more ability. And I think us as women, I think we're very hard on ourselves, but I think we have far more ability than we give ourselves credit for. We are far more creative than we think we are. And we're very positive for the future. And I'd like to also extend a discount code of Women15 to everybody listening tonight, and that's valid for 48 hours on our website for a 15% discount. And thank you all for listening, and thanks very much. A really great privilege to be here.
Well, Claire, Definitely a round of applause. I can hear it coming from all over the world there for you, Claire. And, you know, just how open and honest you were with us there, in actually just saying how challenging that was for you in finding yourself in COVID, and then the loss and the feeling of not having those techie skills. And that definitely are what many people felt during this time. I love what you said there about the power of the connection, and the connection in actually making, and how we actually make links in. And I definitely am going to join with you there in thanking our fellow Soroptimists there, Marion Martel, because it was Marion who introduced and who proposed you for coming and joining our session. So Claire, you're not going away or leaving us at all. You can sit back and relax now, but you'll be coming back and joining our panel with your other two business ladies there later on when we come to the Q&A. So look, I think at this time, I promised you good song and music from Mullingar. And you know, around the country and maybe even across the world, they're beginning to wonder what it is that we have in the water in Mullingar, because they're talking about Nile Horn and it's Frezi and it's the Swarbrigs. But you know, there's one name there that's synonymous with the Mullingar, and that's Dolan, and that's the late Joe Dolan. And we're delighted to have Joe Dolan's niece with us here this evening, Sandra Dolan. So Sandra, you need no introduction. Take it away, Sandra. Entertain us.
Thank you. When you did a woman for me, he must have been in a beautiful mood to show the world what a woman could be. When he created a woman like you, he made the sunshine right out of your eyes. He made the moon blow all over your hair. He put a soft summer breeze in your side, so you could breathe summer into the air. Oh me, oh my, you make me sigh. You're such a good-looking woman. Well, people stop and people stare. You know it fills my heart with pride. You watch their eyes, they're so surprised, think you've fallen out of heaven. And if you listen to what they're talking about who's walking about with an angel at his side. Up there in heaven, I bet they are mad. I bet somebody would want to know why the most incredible angel they had was finally quite unable to fly. You know what they had forgotten to do up there where they made those heavenly things. They made an angel as lovely as you, but they'd forgotten to fit you with wings. Oh me, oh my, you make me sigh. You're such a good-looking woman. When people stop and people stare, you know it fills my heart with pride. You watch their eyes, they're so surprised, think you've fallen out of heaven. And if you listen to what they're talking about who's walking about with an angel at his side. Woo! You good-looking woman, oh, you're such a good-looking woman. Whoa, 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 yeah. You good-looking woman, oh yeah, you're such a good-looking woman. Thank you.
Sandra, that was absolutely brilliant, and I'm sure people now understand what I was talking about when I said about the wealth of talent in Mullingar. So that was really great, and we look forward to hearing you later on. It's now my pleasure to introduce our Minister for Justice, Helen McEntee, and I suppose on the lead-in to the event tonight, you will have seen the video clip of the very powerful women right around the world in leadership positions. And certainly in Ireland, I think we can hold up there with the very best of them. And who better to speak to us tonight but our Minister, Helen McEntee. Helen entered politics in Dáil Éireann in 2013, and she initially assumed ministerial office in 2016. I think her first office was Minister for Mental Health and Older Persons, and then she moved as Minister for European Affairs, and at that time her role was crucial because of all of the change happening in the European economic community. In June last year, Helen accepted the portfolio of Minister for Justice at a time when she had some sense, I think, of the challenge that she was going to encounter in her role. She's a proud Meath woman from our neighbouring county, and we're really delighted that she has taken time out from her very busy schedule tonight. I know she has had many other events today. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm really delighted to welcome Minister Helen McEntee.
Thanks very much, Anne, and thank you to Sarah, and thank you to all of the members of Soroptimist Mullingar and those who have tuned in from right across the country and even beyond for this event this evening. Firstly, I just want to wish everyone a happy International Women's Day, to congratulate you and wish you well on your 30th celebration this year. It's very hard to follow our former panelists there, but you'll be pleased to hear I certainly won't be singing. You would only bring me in at the end if you wanted to clear the room. But it's wonderful to be with you to celebrate International Women's Day today. You know, it's a day that has been around since the early 1900s, I think. But, you know, I certainly, as a young woman and as a girl, it's not something that I remember being as prominent. So I think it's wonderful that we have this day, that it has grown, I think, in stature, and that really it's an opportunity for us through these type of platforms and these type of events to celebrate the many, many wonderful women in our lives, to celebrate the women who we've never met, who we will probably never meet, but who have paved the way for so many of us, who have helped shape the society that we live in, whether it's political life or across all fractions of society. But also it's a really wonderful opportunity for us to thank and to celebrate the wonderful women in our lives, whether it's our mothers, our grandmothers, our sisters, our cousins, our friends, the people we work with, or those within our communities as well. Maybe if I could also just, I suppose, thank you for the work that you do as an organisation as well, for promoting equality and gender equality, but also for supporting and representing those who are vulnerable in our society, and really delighted to hear on the work that you have been doing over the last year, when it has been a particularly challenging year for people. And I think women have been impacted by the pandemic in a different way, but in particular you mentioned obviously the increased levels of domestic violence and domestic abuse. And as Minister for Justice, it's something that I'm acutely aware of, and really something that has shone a light on an issue that has existed until now, but perhaps hasn't been as prominent. So maybe we can use what has been a negative to come out of COVID as a positive to highlight this issue and to really bring about change. Just also to acknowledge my colleagues, Minister Burke and Minister Troy as well, and for the work that they're doing in championing equality, because the only way that we actually get to that point where we have an equal society is women championing women, but men championing women as well. And it's really important that we have that. Maybe just to give you a little bit of a flavour of my own career and how things have progressed, and maybe without going back to when I was an infant in the cradle, but I do think that our younger years and the people that we surround ourselves by and the experiences that we have younger in life, they do shape and they do influence who we become as adults, and maybe subconsciously send us in the path and the direction that we end up moving in. And I was very, very lucky as a young woman to have a very close family, but a family full of very strong and capable women. My mother, who was a homemaker and who really is a wonderful woman, my sister, my two grandparents, my nana who's 95, and my grandmother who passed away last year at 94, who were really instrumental in my life, but also the 21 female first cousins who have been a huge part of my life and continue to be a huge part of my life, but also my own father, if I could maybe mention, because he's somebody who was hugely involved in our community. And for me, politics is very much about community. It's about working with people. It's about supporting people. It's about producing policies, producing legislation, putting plans in place that are going to improve lives for people and the people that you represent. And so from an early age, my dad and my family, who were involved in politics in the background, working in activism, but also working in other parts of our community, whether it was training football teams the length and breadth of the county and even beyond, where, you know, he took on not just the training, but the worries and the concerns and the issues that the young men were going through, and tried to support them in his role as a farmer and as an activist. So I think from a very early age I was exposed to politics in many different forms, and obviously had those very strong female roles in my life as well. I studied economics, politics and law in college, and I think, like a lot of people in college, a lot of students, and I was speaking to students in NUIG earlier on today, I think when you're in college and, you know, you're that age, you feel the pressure and the need to have to decide where you're going and what you're doing. And when you leave college, you know, what do you do next and what kind of a job do you have? And I think it was that type of pressure that led me to take a job in an industry and in a role that really I knew wasn't suited to me, and that, you know, I would eventually end up changing direction. But I suppose I felt that pressure, as many young people do and young women do. And it wasn't the industry itself or the people that worked in it, but I just knew that I needed to change paths. So I worked in a bank for a year. I took time out. I worked in bars. I traveled for the summer. I did all the things that you probably are told you shouldn't do when you're younger, but I think really it was such an important year because it allowed me to really focus on what it was that I wanted to do. I went back to college and did a master's in journalism and media communications. And it was in between all of that, and while I was in college and through that time, that my own dad actually ran for election and was successful in County Meath in a by-election. And so I began working with him. And I think it was probably the best experience that I could have ever had, because we were going into an election campaign, and while I studied politics, nothing can ever prepare you for what it actually is on the ground and how it operates. But also his role as an opposition TD, then as a TD in government, and then as a minister in the Department of Agriculture. So it really gave me an insight into how things worked, but also a love for politics even more. And I would have discussed with him maybe running later on and running for the council, because as far as I was concerned, his seat was there, and this is something that he was going to be working on for a long time. But the one thing I think that you know, it's important to understand is that life is unpredictable, and it can throw things sometimes your way that you don't expect. And when Dad passed away very suddenly in December of 2012, I was left with a very difficult decision, and with the decision of whether I ran for election or not, at a very difficult time, but also at a time, you know, I suppose where there weren't as many women in politics, where there weren't as many young women in politics. But I think I found something in myself that I didn't even know existed then. And I ran, and I was successful, and I had a wonderful team around me. And I have to say, whether you're a man, woman, younger or older, it's so important that you have those teams around you, and that you have people to support you. When I was elected at the time, back in 2013, I was the youngest female TD, not anymore, getting older, but I was 26 at the time. And really, because of the fact that I was working in an environment that was still, unfortunately, even at that time, quite male dominated, I would have been asked a lot, and quite often, do I feel as though I was treated differently, or, you know, did I feel when I got into this role that I was treated differently because I was a woman? And whether or not it's the fact that I grew up in a family whereby we were always told that you know, women could achieve whatever they wanted to, and to follow our dreams. You know, I never felt that. And even though I look back now and I probably see there were little things happening that I didn't realize, but I often felt more so I was treated differently because I was young. And I think so many young women will feel this way as well, whether they're just finishing college, whether they're going into new careers. you know, you don't have the experience, you don't have the knowledge. People think that you're not maybe capable until you gain that experience. But what I would always say is that, irrespective of whether it's politics or whatever role you're getting into, just because you're new and just because you don't have that experience, it doesn't mean that you don't have something that you can bring to the table. So I worked really hard for the next 3 years, and I suppose really set my sights on making sure that I was successful in the next election, because I think probably one of my fears was that I would be seen as somebody who was somebody else's daughter, and that's how she won her seat. But I was successful in the next election, and it was about that time that there was a huge drive, and really a drive that was driven by the younger people in our country to demand better mental health services, and that there needed to be a greater focus on mental health, in particular for our younger people. And it was at that time I remember speaking to Enda Kenny, who was Taoiseach, and was successful after that election, and highlighting to him that this is an area that we needed to focus on, and this is something that he needed to prioritise in his next government. And by, I suppose, highlighting it as an issue, whether consciously or subconsciously, I put myself forward as well, and was elected as or appointed as Minister for Mental Health, and really spent the next year focusing on youth mental health and how we could improve the system, but also my role as Minister for Older People as well, and trying to improve the services there. I have to say, when I was moved on to my next role, as Anne said, as Minister for European Affairs, at a time when there was so much happening in Europe, and obviously Brexit, it was the first time, and this was maybe 4.5 years after being elected, that I actually felt as though we hadn't actually made the progress that I thought we'd made in politics and in terms of equality, because I suddenly found myself in rooms where I was the only woman in the room. So some of the meetings that we would have had at home in Ireland, and indeed meetings in Europe and across Europe and in Brussels, and I suddenly felt and could see and sense that there was still so much work that we needed to do, and still so much progress that needed to be made when it came to politics. When you look at the makeup of the Dáil, we're still at 22.5% female participation, so we're only half of the way where we need to be. I'm now in the Department of Justice, and I have to say, I think I'm very lucky to be in the department at a time when there are really some fantastic women who are breaking through glass ceilings. We have the first female Secretary General in the Department of Justice. We have the very first CEO of the Court Service. We have 2 female Deputy Commissioners. We have the very first female CEO of the Irish Prison Service, and the list goes on. And it's really wonderful to see that happening, particularly in this space. But what I'd really love to see, and the point that we'd really love to get to, is where we're not celebrating these firsts, and while we are, and while it is the case, we will absolutely celebrate them, but we need to get to a point where it is the norm, where these type of appointments are being made, and where we have, I touched on earlier on the issue of domestic abuse, as Anne had mentioned, and I really see my own role now as Minister for Justice as an opportunity to address so many issues that unfortunately affect women disproportionately in our society today, domestic and sexual abuse being one of them, harassment, hate speech, hate crimes, and other areas as well through our court system, family law. And I really feel this is an opportunity that I have now to bring about change, be it through policy, be it through legislation, be it through new plans in all of these areas. But I think one of the most important things for me at the moment, and I suppose the international theme for this year's International Women's Day, is choose to challenge. And I think each and every one of us, be it in the private sector, be it in our everyday lives, be it in positions of leadership, we need to use this opportunity to choose ourselves, to challenge the norms, to challenge the stereotypes in society, and to do something ourselves to break down those barriers and to improve lives for women and girls. And I would challenge each and every one of us on the line this evening, whether it's in the next day, whether it's in the next month, whether it's in the next year, to think about how we can do something that will improve the lives for those who are coming down the line behind us. Because it's only because of the women who came before me, and so many of you who are on the line here as well, because of the way in which you challenged the norms at the time and the society as it was at the time, that it has allowed me and so many other younger women to to be in the position that we're in. And I suppose it's now up to each and every one of us to continue on that legacy as well. So it's a real honour to be with you this evening, to celebrate International Women's Day with you. You know, as I've said, it's a day that really is an opportunity to celebrate the many wonderful women who have gone before us, but to celebrate the achievements, but also to look forward and to see what it is that we need to do into the future. And obviously, with COVID-19, it has been a challenging year. But I think while it's been very difficult for many people, I think it has really brought out the best in so much of our society. It's brought out the best in the way that we have worked with each other, that we have supported each other. And I think if we could just bottle that in any small way after the pandemic, when things ease off, I think we will, as a society, be the much better for it. So thank you again, and really looking forward to engaging with you further this evening.
Thank you very much, Minister McEntee. And as you talked there, we could just feel the warmth and how personal you were about, you know, just telling your own story and your own life path through. And it was lovely there to hear you refer back to your father and how important, you know, the whole family and the growing up in the family and the unity that was there in bringing yourself to where you are. And look, we really admire from a women's perspective of how you have come to be there and be that young minister there in the Dáil. And I can definitely say everybody is wishing you all good luck along the line. Now, we've heard, and you would have heard plenty today talking about maternity leave and no maternity leave and the Dáil, whatever. And look, I can tell you, I see it in the question answers. The Soroptimist saying, is there anything that we can do to help you if it isn't actually resolved? And I suppose it probably made a lot of us women think, how in God's name can we be in 2021 and have no maternity leave for the minister? So I suppose it's like, where is this going and how is it going to get sorted? And if there's anything that we can do to help you.
Look, I appreciate that, and we're nearly there, is what I would say, and it's something that's been worked on. It is hard to believe because, you know, I'm not the first woman in politics to have a baby, and I won't be the last. And there have been colleagues before me in recent years, only in the last few years, who have had babies either in the Dáil or the Seanad. But for some reason, nothing has changed. And that's what I find frustrating, that, you know, women have felt under pressure to come back to work, to not take that time out, and the system hasn't adjusted at all. So what's really important to me is that, you know, I want to be able to take time with my baby, and I think it's important that you can, but that this actually brings about change. So for future ministers, for future TDs, for senators, for our councillors as well. And so that's really what I'm hoping we can achieve. And you know, look, it has started a conversation, not just in politics, but in every walk of life. And I think we have lost many very excellent, smart, intelligent, driven, ambitious women in careers because they haven't had the support. There hasn't been that, you know, whether it's childcare, whether it's that flexibility in their work, or there has been that bias where they have left their working environments, or where they just haven't progressed in the first instance because of that. So I think it's allowed us to maybe focus that a little bit more. And indeed, with COVID-19, we've all had to adapt how we work. We're now working more online. You know, the fears that were there around flexible working and how do we change things about, they've just had to disappear because we have had no choice. I think, again, we need to grasp that opportunity to make sure that we can bring about more flexible type working, acknowledging that, you know, there is family life, it's not just 9 to 5, but also making sure that we can improve the overall supports that don't necessarily exist for women and for families in general at the moment. So, you know, hopefully we'll see change, and you know, I appreciate everybody's support, and hoping that everything will be resolved as quickly as possible, soon enough.
Yes, and I suppose is that just when you look there at maternity leave, that probably when you dig deeper, you're probably going to find there that there are many, many other, you know, arrangements that need to be put in their place for women. And another question that's come in there into our box, linked in a way, is that said, do you think that compulsory paternity benefit would help change our work culture towards more flexible working environments and allow equal opportunity for women to pursue their career?
So I think it is about choice, and I suppose that there should always be that option, whether it's for men or women. But I do think there is well, firstly, I suppose it's something that hasn't really existed, be it in the public or private sector until recently, and we're now starting to talk more about men and women taking time off equally, and that's we need to encourage that more. I think there is a fear, particularly if we're encouraging men to take time off, that they won't progress in their careers and that it's something that would work against them. But I think we need to maybe try and change that narrative. My own husband is hopefully going to be taking a bit of time off, and you need to be able to balance those roles. But not every company, not every sector provides that. So I think as a government we need to be leading by example and changing that narrative and changing that type of environment. But it is difficult. You're changing what has been a habit of a lifetime essentially, and you are really kind of trying to reverse the roles or to equalize the roles. And it's not the easiest thing to do, but I do think that it is something that would make it easier for women as well. If they know, and for men as well, if they know that this is something that's going to be there for everybody. But I'm not sure if you make things mandatory. I think you have to always give people a choice, and people need to be able to make that choice. But if the choice isn't there in the first instance, then where do you go? So
moving to a different topic here, and you mentioned that you studied there in social media for some time. So I suppose an interesting thing is like the whole area there of social media, and also the interviews, and just thinking about the many interviews that you do, and we see you doing them quite frequently there. But do you ever get the feeling, or is it kind of going in the way that the people that are coming in there to do the interviews are more looking about finding opportunities or ways of actually tripping up the ministers or tripping up the ones that are the politicians, and maybe trying to get more of the high flight themselves in the social media? I tripped them up or I found them out in that way. What's your feeling of all the interaction with the interviewers and the RTE and the social media and all of those at the moment?
I think I find I generally do in interviews. I mean, you can often have tough interviews, and you sometimes feel like you're put in the spot, or it's hard to answer a question. But at the same time, journalists have a job to do, and I suppose it's to make sure that they get the answers and that they can clearly explain to people what's going on, and they do that through their questions. I think at the same time, I've often been in situations where you can sense that the person is interviewing you, and the only objective they have is to get you to say the one thing you don't want to say, or perhaps the one thing that they think will cause the most trouble, or that will get the biggest headlines. But it doesn't happen very often. I think more so when you talk about social media. I think social media in itself, and it's not our journalists or our broadcasters. I think it's the fact that people in a very coveted way can, or in a hidden way, can say what they want to say, can comment, can sometimes state things as fact even where it's not the case, and it's very easy to spread misinformation and disinformation. It's very easy to twist something that somebody has said, whether it's a politician or not, to try and create a particular narrative that isn't necessarily true to what has been said. And I think that's a challenge that we face at the moment. It's not just in Ireland, it's not just for politicians, it's across the world, and it's across the board. And we've seen, in particular in the US, how disinformation and this type of how social media is progressing, how it can be very, very positive. And look what we're doing this evening, and these are wonderful platforms, but they can be used in a very negative way as well. And so there really isn't, and I suppose part of my role in justice is making sure that we have the laws in place to make sure we know what is criminal content, what's abuse, what's harassment, what's acceptable, what's not. But you also need to have a role for the social media companies as well. You need to make sure that they are monitoring what's been said and what's happening. But it's a very difficult space. I think it's a very difficult position that we find ourselves in at the moment, and I think it's something that we need to be careful with. But I think in the most part, come back to the beginning question, I think mainstream media and journalists, it's their job to obviously to ask the tough questions, and it's our job to try and answer them as best we can. And sometimes we'll clash, and sometimes there'll be headlines that come out of it, but that's okay. But as I said, I think that it's the social media, it's the it's the people behind the different profiles that often are the more difficult elements of it.
Well, that's very, very fair and honourable from there. And coming to our last question, you've had a long, hard day from there, a very general one. You mentioned there about the few and the low number of women that's there in the Dáil. How do you women get on together? You know, sometimes they talk about us women, and maybe that sometimes we can be the biggest barrier to ourselves, and to talk about that, you know, when we get to the top, we pull up the ladder and we don't reach down the ladder. But how are the women working together there in the Dáil?
I think the women work very well, you know, and I think the only way that we're going to actually see more women in politics is by women supporting other women. You can't, as the saying goes, and you know, you can't be what you can't see. So I think women are encouraged by seeing other women getting into politics and seeing that this is something that they can do themselves. And, you know, I have fantastic female colleagues, and we work together and we work well together. And I suppose it is about providing that support. And when I came into politics initially, you know, I had some really fantastic colleagues who helped me and who mentored me and who still support me. And I suppose I hope that that's something that I do, and working with some of our newer colleagues as well, that I provide that support and that same, I suppose, direction as I was given when I came into it. But, you know, you do, it's important, whether it's in politics or in any other type of environment, you need to have women who are there, who are, you know, in positions of leadership that will encourage other women to get in, but when they're in, that they encourage them even further, and that they stay connected with each other as well. So, you know, it's a fair question, and it's, you know, as I said, I think it applies to every type of profession. Women need to support other women if we're going to get ahead. We also need the men to support us as well. So it's equally as important that we have their support. And I have to say, in the Dáil, you know, I'm very lucky to have come in at a time where I think we have a lot more younger men as well, men who have young families and who maybe have a different approach, or have grown up in a different time and a different era as well. And I think that's in itself has created a new dynamic and a different type of a dynamic in politics, which is very welcome.
And that's so reassuring for us and us as Soroptimists. It's hard to believe that Soroptimists are celebrating the 100 years anniversary that were founded 100 years ago there, and 2021 is that big celebration in relation to Soroptimists worldwide. We in Mullingar are just 30 years old from there, but that is that whole drive of us trying to achieve that equality there for women. So, Minister, I can say to you, there's nothing, only good wishes flowing in here to you from our audience, and wishing you the very best of good luck with your maternity leave and the forthcoming of your new baby and all of that. So look, I thank you for that, and I will now pass back to our President, Anne Melly, for the formal thanks to you.
Thank you.
Helen, that was absolutely wonderful. And on behalf of everybody listening in, I just want to thank you for your contribution to our evening. I think, you know, outlining your trajectory from childhood through to student onwards to your first career and then to your now career, I think it's an inspiration really to young girls listening in that will be embarking on their future. So thanks so much for that. I know you've had a really long day and that you've been involved in many events during the day. We're very happy if you can stay with us, but we completely understand if you want to put your feet up at this stage. And as some of the questions alluded to, we do know that you have a very exciting event, personal event coming up in the next number of months, and I'd like to wish you all the very best and hope that that goes very well. As Soroptimists, we would love to continue the discussion with you about the topic of violence against women. So we can connect again about that, and indeed with our local ministers also. So again, on behalf of everybody, Helen, thank you so much really for joining with us. We're really extremely grateful. Okay, so I'm going to now introduce another piece of entertainment, and I'm delighted to introduce Maeve Hughes, who is a local musician and songwriter and singer. And Maeve, for her first number tonight, is going to play one of her own compositions called Lucky Hand.
These words of color that you can't touch, I sing in corners with still light. The trees, the shapes and tiles and circles in the air, tearing pieces out of me. I take my time and watch the street lights illuminate, drive alone at night to pass the time away. And although some things feel the same, I'd rather sing than call your name. I'll be fine, 'cause I've got a lucky hand. Tomorrow came and we all moved on. Now I know how you must feel, 'cause we fought fire with fire till nothing could be right. Bittersweet uncertainty. I take my time and watch the street lights illuminate, drive alone at night to pass the time away. And although some things feel the same, I'd rather sing than call your name. I'll be fine, 'cause I've got a lucky hand. I've got a lucky hand. So I recall these times at bus stops on my way. Memory is all I know. Like Cassiopeia was banished to the stars, sooner or later it had to go. I take my time and watch the street lights illuminate, drive alone at night to pass the time away. Although some things feel the same, I'd rather sing than call your name. I'll be fine, 'cause I've got a lucky hand. I've got a lucky hand. I've got a lucky hand. Ooh, ooh.
Thank you very much, Maeve. And that, of course, was Maeve Hughes, and that beautiful song written by herself with such a beautiful, clear, crystal voice. And you know, the treat is we're going to hear from Maeve again before the evening is out. Now, moving to our second business lady that's coming here to share her story with us this evening is Katie Murphy from Wolfhound Fitness. Now, just think of that name, Wolfhound Fitness, kind of puts a bit of a shiver up your back here into it. So Katie is the co-owner and co-director, and she's also the part-time coach out there in Wolfhound Fitness. They opened in 2016, and their whole aim is there to actually have fun while you get fit and you'll actually get the guidance there in how to achieve your own personal goals. And they deal there and open their doors to the public and to the elite athletes who want to achieve their targets as well. So when we talk about, a fitness centre and we think of 2020 and COVID, well, it's a bumpy ride that has been there, open, close, open, close. So Katie, delighted to have you, delighted to hear your story from 2020. Over to you, Katie.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And I suppose I just want to start off by thanking all of the organisers for inviting me to join you this evening. Special mention to Niamh Ledwith, who put me in connection with you guys. And it's just really lovely to be a part of a celebration for International Women's Day. It's a day I love to mark every year, whether it's meeting up with friends, taking time really just to think about all of the wonderful, positive female role models that are in my life. My mother, my sister, my aunts and cousins, many of whom I believe are logged on this evening. So, I'm very fortunate that I have lots of very positive, inspiring, ambitious women that I've seen as I've grown up and I suppose gone on my journey so far. And I've been known also to organise some fun workouts, and I suppose I put fun in inverted commas because it's open to interpretation. But just yesterday, myself and I think there was about 50 of the female members of Wolfhound Fitness, we took on a virtual relay marathon, just as a way of marking the day. Obviously, we'd love to be together no more than everyone involved with Soroptimist and other community groups, but we made the most of it and embraced technology, keeping us as connected as we possibly could. So as Sarah mentioned, I'm here to kind of share my story, and storytelling is something I enjoy thoroughly. But I suppose when we are asked to tell our own story, it can be not so easy. And I think as women, we tend to maybe play down our achievements a little bit, can find it very difficult to accept a compliment or praise. And I've spoken at a few virtual events over the past couple of months and weeks. And it actually has surprised me how challenging I can find it to talk about myself or to talk about positive achievements or, to share some experiences in a positive way. And I guess today is the perfect day to just embrace it. It is International Women's Day. It's a day to celebrate how far we've come, and I suppose to look back on the experiences that have maybe brought us to some of the positive experiences within our lives. So like any story, there are many chapters. There have been a lot of plot twists and turns that we all experience throughout the flow of life. So it was a very rewarding experience just to sit back and reflect on all of the different experiences, all of the different lessons, good lessons, not so good lessons that have shaped me, and I suppose they've helped me to become the woman, the person I am, the woman I am, and in many ways the business owner that I've become. So before I take you through my story, I suppose over the last 12 months, I'm just going to give a very quick synopsis of experiences that I've had that have maybe led me to the choices that I've made in the career that myself and my husband Joe are now carving out for ourselves, I guess, in many ways. And I was actually diagnosed with cystic fibrosis at the age of 3. So for anyone who hasn't heard of it, it is a chronic illness, so there's no cure, but it primarily affects the lungs and airways. So growing up, I guess I learned the true value of health, well-being, from such a young age, and it became an intrinsic value. And I think it's only now that I'm an adult and I begin to reflect and understand how important our own personal values are, that I recognize that actually having this unquestionable belief that my health is truly the most important thing that I can cherish and protect. It's actually stayed with me throughout my entire life, and it has shaped so many decisions that I didn't realize maybe it was doing at the time. Only now when I reflect, I recognize where those decision-making processes were coming from. I learned that, your lifestyle choices make a huge impact on your overall health and well-being. So exercise, healthy nutrition, looking after my mental health and well-being, having connections with people around me, really became central to me remaining a part of society and remaining a healthy, happy, ambitious woman who had dreams that she wants to achieve. I just had to make sure that I had the systems in place that were going to allow me to do that. So I do also believe that this steered my studies as well. I started off studying psychology, And then I recognized that I was remaining so passionate about health and fitness and well-being. I went on to pursue a master's in health promotion. And from there, I worked with the University of Galway as a researcher. And I guess I was very fortunate then to be able to combine very many of my passions and take up a role with the National Advocacy Organisation for CF, so Cystic Fibrosis Ireland, where I worked in the area of research, policy and advocacy. And I spent about 5 years there, and I suppose our role primarily within the CF organisation was to represent our community. And I think the word community is also a word that I've taken with me, and the value that I've taken with me as I've moved through my life so far. Because I've really seen that when people come together and when they have positive connections and really good relationships, that your mental health and your well-being absolutely thrives. And also we can achieve incredible things. So in that really quick whistle-stop tour of my story synopsis, two main things really came to the forefront of my mind, and that was health and well-being and community. So when myself and my husband Joe, my now husband Joe, spoke about maybe opening a gym or fitness centre, I checked in with my values, and I thought, you know, I'm very passionate about health and fitness. I'm very passionate about community. So if I feel strongly that we can combine these two really intrinsic values to me and to him, thankfully we share the same values, then I'm all for it. Absolutely, 100%, let's go for it. And we did, and we were 26 years of age when we opened the gym, and we were very passionate about what we were doing. We had very little to lose, so we were quite fearless, and I think that that was also another important asset that we had going into it. But we knew deep down what we wanted to achieve, and we had, you know, we had the vision, and we stuck to our guns, and we trusted our instincts as to what we wanted to do with the business, and it was going to become our livelihood, so we had to enjoy it. And I think that's a big part of why I love the challenge of self-employment. You know, it's about being creative, yes, having a lot of fun along the way, but really remembering why you're doing it in the first place. So in many ways, I think that this has been a key to our success to date. And, you know, that coupled with obviously running a business, I love planning, strategies, forecasting, but I can put my hands up and say I did not strategize or forecast or foresee COVID-19. And I guess we have been closed, our physical doors have been closed for 9 of the past 12 months. We are currently closed. We've opened and closed, I think, 3 times now at this stage. So it's been a roller coaster. It's been really, really challenging. And there's no point in pretending it's been anything other than that. But I think when we first learned we were going to be closing, we just checked back in with our values once more. And we always want to support our members in our community to remain healthy, and we want to keep them connected. So we decided the strategy that we were going to employ had to center around those two things. So literally the day we closed, we dismantled the gym. We passed it out. Our members hired out their equipment. We moved our business online, I think within 2 days. We were very fortunate that we had experience with online work. Social media is a huge part of what we do. And we just set to work. We said we'll keep people active, we'll keep people connected, and that is all we can do currently. I think I must have told myself to control the controllables 100 times a day when this pandemic first hit, and I do continue to tell myself that, because we can only operate within the guidelines, and we can only do what we can do. But I think when we were driven by those two really intrinsic values, that we were able to provide a service that our members valued. So the day we closed our doors was very hard, but we had set ourselves some very ambitious goals for 2020. This was the year we were going to take things up a notch. Things were going great. We had very long waiting lists, so we knew we needed to do something in order to be able to meet the demand for the services. So we had decided we wanted to build a second story on our building, and we also wanted to grow our coaching team. So we were very fortunate, I guess, that because we had such a strong community and so many people wanted to continue to be a part of Full-Time Fitness, regardless of whether it was within our 4 walls or from home, we were still able to plow on with our plans. So it was very challenging, and it's still very challenging, but we keep our sights on why we're doing what we're doing. And support people to the very best of our own abilities. And we remain optimistic. We reckon we will be stronger. Our vision for what we want for our business will solidify. We're building a fantastic team. We are very passionate about ensuring balance within Wolfhound Fitness. So we have 50-50 female to male coaches. This is typically a very male dominant industry that we're in, but we're working really hard to make sure that we are balanced and that we promote women in sport and we promote women in fitness, and that we try and instill these values that, training at the gym is not all about losing weight and aesthetics. And that's definitely a challenge that we still come up against, but it's incredible when you give anyone, men or women, a community and a sense of you're improving your longevity, you're improving your health, that people can experience something much more meaningful than a weight loss journey. So I guess that's kind of been our experience so far. We continue with the methods that we've employed already. The gym is still out in everyone's home, and we continue to work online, and we're remaining as positive as we can. And I guess to finish, my advice would be just to identify what's meaningful to you and pursue it, and be passionate and believe in yourself. It's something that I've learned, and I'm still learning, to back myself and trust that my female instinct is absolutely a good thing in the fitness industry.
Women and girls have always faced hurdles, but that's never stopped us. We've sacrificed, fought, campaigned, succeeded, been knocked back, and succeeded again. In a race for justice, we've leapt over countless obstacles to win our rights. Women didn't have the right to vote, were excluded from education, were not paid fairly for their work, and had no voice in political leadership. Even the first Olympic Games didn't include women. That was then. There are many huge and high hurdles left to jump. The race is still on, every day of every year of our lives. But we will cross the finishing line. No one can stop us. Equality. Now.
Together, right in a line, kept their opponent, Belgium of Germany, Cuban of Australia, Brits of Russia there as well.
And there, of course, you had Katie Murphy giving us that great inspiration, and she telling us how she overcame the hurdles in her life, and nicely laid in, reminding us about the various hurdles that are there for women. And I just want to say that I'm getting requests there about information from our previous speakers and their business. So after the session, we will send an email to everybody who has attended here this evening, and we will share with you the business contact details for all our speakers here this evening. So that will then move us on to our third and final local business woman here this evening in telling her story. And this is no other than Caroline Hines from Jasmine. Now, Caroline is synonymous here with Mullingar, I can say, and Caroline told me that she started Jasmine 22 years ago or thereabouts. And I suppose for those of us that around Mullingar and Westmeath that know Jasmine, is that we link it in with the place that we think about as the day at the races or Mother's Day or the wedding, and we're talking about our accessories and all those good things that we actually go for. And then, of course, COVID comes, and as Caroline says, there were no day at the races, you know, there were no going out, there were no weddings, there were no parties. So, Caroline, what happened to Jasmine and you in 2020? Caroline, we welcome your story.
Well, hi, Sarah, and lovely to talk to you all tonight. It's a pleasure being here. Well, yes, as Sarah said, we closed. It's actually exactly a year this week. And, you know, I was telling her that looking back, we were incredibly naive. I remember that first day that we closed, we were walking across the park, myself and my sister who runs the shop with me, and we were saying, how are we going to survive this? You know, we're going to miss Easter, we're going to miss St. Patrick's Day, we're going to miss Mother's Day. These are big events, because don't forget, January and February is very, very quiet for us. How are we going to survive it? Like, you know, little did we know, you know, as the days and weeks progressed and Leo made his big speech, you know, that one we'll never forget, the pennies started to drop. Some of you may know our business in Mullingar. You know, during the summer months, it's all based around events. It starts with the races, it goes on to communions, it goes on to weddings, more races, you know, lots of celebratory occasions. And each one of these were cancelled one by one over the following weeks and months. You know, I've been selling jewellery and accessories to bridal parties for years now. And this year was to be my turn. My own daughter, my only child, was getting married in May. 1 minute I was stressed out about the speech and bringing her down the aisle and, you know, what you're going to wear. And the next minute it was cancelled. It was due for May, which was in heavy lockdown, and rescheduled for November, again, heavy lockdown. So it never happened yet. It is going to happen, and we're really looking forward to it. But, you know, so much of our lives have been put on hold, especially all these lovely events. So I was really able to put myself in my customers' shoes. I could see, you know, how hard it was for them. The 3 lockdowns were actually really quite different for us. You know, the first lockdown, we had that amazing weather. Will you remember that? And in hindsight, I really should have relished the rest. You know, I do regret that a little bit, I have to say. But, you know, I'm self-employed, I'm a businesswoman. Having a shop closed while full of brand new stock, it's really difficult to be at peace with that and to relax and just stay at home and do nothing. What the lockdown did was really shake me out of my comfort zone. I got lots of groundwork done then. You know, it didn't happen automatically. It's, you know, it was something that I had to really, really think about. You know, I was getting lots of messages from customers, and I found it really difficult to describe things over the phone. You have to remember that people still thought events were going to go ahead. So I was trying to describe things. I was working alone because, you know, we were in full lockdown at that stage. And I was getting messages on social media and WhatsApp and all the platforms and under every post. And honestly, I didn't know whether I was coming or going. So it forced me to do videos, which I know I would never have done. It was the only solution, because then you're talking to people directly face to face. I was very uncomfortable. I still am. I winged it, and I still do. And it shows, but the reaction was very positive. I think people really appreciated the diversion of looking at nice things. And, you know, it's in our DNA as women, isn't it, to look at nice things? It's one of the pleasures in life. So that was one thing. And the second thing then was the website. I was listening to Claire then, and I fully concur with her. I thought we had a perfectly good website. I'm not an online shopper myself. So it was really difficult, you know, after speaking to some experts, to find out that my website wasn't up to scratch, even though we put a lot of effort into it. Customers' expectations had got higher. You know, they needed a much quicker loading, easy to use, and it wasn't able to take the amount of stock. We do have a lot of stock. So I had to change that and start from the beginning. I started working with a lovely local company. I have to say it's the biggest challenge I've ever had in business. It's really is an awful lot of work. Don't let anyone tell you it's easy. But, you know, if it wasn't for the lockdown, I have to say that website wouldn't be what it is now. It really gave me the time to invest in it, you know, because it's very difficult. I have a retail shop. It's open 6 days a week and 7 days a week in December. So it's not that easy. So then we were open again. I think this was June, and all the measures, of course, we had in place, and it was fantastic to have my sister back and not be on my own anymore, and of course have the customers back. It was great. But, you know, there still was only a handful of weddings. It was different because people were, they were still actually buying presents, and obviously they were treating themselves as well, which was great. But then lockdown number 2 happened, and it started really badly because my poor sister had an accident outside the shop that very day, and ambulances, the whole lot, and she ended up with a broken ankle and in a boot for the whole of the lockdown. This lockdown was different because we were allowed click and collect at that stage, so I needed help. But it was a huge other blow, and it's hard to keep up all the time, you know. So luckily I managed to hire two lovely young girls, Leah and Aoife, and their youth and energy was great. It was really, I really needed that boost, you know. The three of us were rushed off our feet, you know, with click and collect, but we did have to be careful because each of us have vulnerable family members, but thank God everybody was okay. And we posted out to the rest of the country. So it was all new and challenging. We had to set up all them systems, which was great. When Christmas happened, then there was such momentum. You know, we had Trisha back again. We definitely noticed there was more people were much more aware of the importance of buying locally. They were really, really looking forward to Christmas. I think they were really very generous to their friends and family. They'd missed them so, so much. And, you know, I think they needed that lift that gift giving gives you, you know, the way it's such fun to give something to somebody that you know they're going to love. So by Christmas Eve, we were, I have to say, very burnt out and, you know, delighted that things had picked up in the end. I mean, you're never going to make up for being closed like we were. There's no point in whatever, but, you know, we're just trying to keep our head above water. So we're very grateful for the days off of Christmas. And, you know, coming up to Christmas, everybody was so positive, you know, that the vaccine was coming and everything was going to be brilliant. But God, weren't we all really blindsided? It was really a shock to be closed so soon after Christmas. We were barely open, but we had to close again. So here we were in the third lockdown. And in January, I have to say, I really didn't know what to do. I didn't feel comfortable doing the videos at this stage. I think you have to always go with your gut. And so I stalled on them. We didn't have that Christmas thing anymore to focus on. And we couldn't be encouraging people to come into town. It was level 5. There was 100 people down a day at some points, and it didn't feel right to me. So that I'd obviously have been very different. So my days have been spent obviously talking to people on the phone and fulfilling orders from online, which has been great. And it lifts my heart to see, you know, local people that I know, they're buying online now, which is great. Even people just a mile away. It's amazing how fantastic people have been at sticking to the guidelines and just working with where we are right now. You know, it's such a buzz, and I want to thank everybody so much. I really have to take this opportunity to do that. I am, of course, hoping we're near the end of the last lockdown. We really don't know what's happening though. But I am aware that there's still no hope for events, and there won't be for a long time. So my business has had to adapt quite substantially. If you do look up our website now, we hope you do, www.jasmine.ie. It reads more like a lifestyle store. You know, it's catering for that horrible expression, the new normal. But that's the reality. Instead of glamour now, it's more classic clothing, classic jewellery, sustainable is big in there as well, sustainable pieces, you know, accessories, and it just has to suit our changed lifestyle. That's the reality. You have to move with the way things are and what people want. We're delighted to have lots more Irish products. We have Clare silk masks, we were talking tonight, we saw so many of them at Christmas. We have candles commissioned locally, we have candles and from other parts of the country. We have Irish accessories and Irish clothing. Obviously not everything we have is Irish. Even if products aren't from Ireland, we have an Irish agent here, and most of them are women with small families. The business has come full circle because our first shop had mainly Irish products when we opened 22 years ago. So Sarah, you asked me what kept me going, and I have to say I've undoubtedly found this lockdown very difficult. Working behind closed doors alone is very isolating. And being a little older, though, I think has helped a bit. I've been through extreme challenges in the past in my personal life, and these challenges have really helped me keep things in perspective. I know this will pass and that we've so much to look forward to. So many people have lost young loved ones to COVID, and look, we just have to put one foot in front of the other every day, and it's out of our hands. My hope is that we appreciate each other and are there for each other more, that the economy will bounce back, and that we'll keep this Buy Irish momentum going, that it stays in people's consciousness indefinitely. so many Irish people or Irish women are involved in the creative industry and involved in the fashion industry and are doing fabulous things. So listen, we all have our own story to tell in this lockdown. I hope mine gives you an insight into what it's like on our side and the retail side, and my lockdown experience in business. I'm thrilled I still have my daughter's wedding to look forward to. I don't know if I'll be able to fit into the outfit, of course, because of COVID plans, but we'll try. So it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you this evening, and thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much, Caroline. And it's lovely to see that great smile, and the smile in your eyes and the smile all over your face. And I should have said there at the beginning, as Caroline is with us so many times in Soroptimist, always doing the pop-up shops. And last year she was with us out in Bloomfield as well there too. And so you're always supporting us as Soroptimist. So it's now my pleasure to invite back Claire and Katie. So Caroline, you stay there. We'll have Claire.
I will.
Katie will come back here, and we'll have a little Q&A. So Caroline is going to stay with us as well, and we will have President Anne will join us. So looking at the questions, that are just coming in here, and of course we won't be able to get through all of them, but just a little flavour maybe of some of the ones that's actually there. The first thing I will say is that to you ladies, thank you very much for coming here this evening and telling your story. It's not easy to do, and all of you telling about just the way COVID has impacted you and what you're actually doing and sitting at home in relation to that. And as I said, there are great thanks to Mary Martell, our own Soroptimist, for introducing us to Claire, to Niamh Ledwith introducing us there, to Katie Murphy, and Caroline, you're known by everybody in Soroptimist, so you didn't need any introduction. So Claire, I'm going to give the first question here over to yourself. And it's really looking to say that if you were starting up a business, what advice would you give to someone that's starting off business?
I suppose I would say if you have a clear idea what business idea that you have, a clear idea or a clear idea of a service you want to provide, I would start very much with consumer feedback and active market research. But I would also, I think some people are trying to wait until something is perfect to do it. I think just getting out there and doing it and taking action and having faith that you have enough ability to carry this out is a very important thing. I suppose I was lucky. I was quite young when I started a business, and I didn't have so much to lose. I didn't have a mortgage. I was 19. But I think some people, as they get on in life, they're fearful of having to have everything perfect. Go out there and just do it. Take action and have faith in yourself and just be yourself.
Good sound advice, Claire. Katie, you mentioned there when you were talking and you referred there to mental health. The question there is asking is, how important is exercise for your mental health?
Yeah, it is hugely important. And I mean, I suppose for everybody, we all have mental health that needs to be looked after. And for some people, exercise is the number one way that they manage it. And for other people, it might not be the be all and end all. So I suppose it's about identifying, are you someone who responds very well to exercise, and does that endorphin release support your mental health? But what I typically find, and in my experience, it's the connections to the people around you while you're training that really, really make the big changes to people's mental health and personalities, because they allow themselves to build relationships and enjoy the training and that social connection while they are feeling stronger, feeling healthy. There's no better feeling than feeling strong and feeling energized and ready to take on the day. So it's a hugely important part to managing your mental health. And I think it's something I'm very fortunate to have recently taken up the role of chairperson of Good to Talk, the mental health charity here in Mullingar. And it's something that we definitely recognise that it can be a really, really valuable tool for people who are struggling to start exercise and get out in the fresh air and start moving. It can have a very beneficial outcome.
Well, thanks, Katie. And I didn't know that you were there involved with the Good to Talk. And that's one of our many, many charities that Soroptimist have supported over the time. And indeed, I'm sure our paths will cross. Caroline, we couldn't let you go without a question. And Caroline, this is the piece here. You mentioned there about having to change the shop and you're looking to the future. Glamorize, we were always so glamorous, and all these race days and ever. Will it come back? will we dress up again? Will we have that heart to go through and all that again?
Oh my God, absolutely. I mean, the first thing that I think is going to be really important is Spanx for everybody. once we've got the Spanx, unless you're going to Katie, of course. Once you've got the Spanx, I think, listen, we've been in shapeless clothes for so long. We need to get it. We're women. We're feminine. We want to show our femininity. We want to put on after the war. Do you remember in the 19th? You don't remember, but do you ever watch any of the films of after the war? They're wearing the red lipstick, the seamed stockings. It never stopped them being glamorous. In fact, I think lipstick sales went up. So I'm expecting, I think after all these brides have been through and everybody's been through and waiting, we owe it to everybody to dress up even more than before, I think, and really get glamorous after all this. I think it's something that people will be looking forward to. I hope anyway.
Well, Caroline, that's just exactly what we wanted to hear. So look, if we could stay here all night talking to yourselves, wonderful ladies, and the great joy that's there with you, I'm just going to put you on the spot and say, just give me one word from yourselves that you think that is what is within you that has actually enabled you to be standing, to be smiling, and to be with us here tonight, despite the troubles that you've in there. So who will I go to first? Well, what about Katie? Katie, one word. What is it that you're saying?
Passion.
Passion. And Claire?
Love.
Love?
No, yeah.
Great. Love it. Passion.
Yeah.
Love. Caroline?
And I think after that, you need resilience as well.
There you have it. Now, ladies and gentlemen out there, we've got it. It's passion, it's love, and it's resilience. Ladies, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And sit back and enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I promised you when we were coming in that we would actually have entertainment and laughter, and I definitely promised you some laughter. So I'm now introducing to you a lady by the name of Mary Hughes, and Mary Hughes from Mullingar. And when I was talking to Mary, I said, Mary, how do we introduce you? She said, I'm a retired school teacher. Well, yes, she's definitely a retired school teacher, but I can tell you she is a lot more than a retired school teacher. Now, I want to tell you that Mary has joined us and is a great friend of the Soroptimist for many years, and she has sat on our local and our regional public speaking competition judges there with us. And when you actually sit back and enjoy Mary here tonight, you will know what I'm talking about when I tell you about the way that she can enjoy you. And tonight, John Crow, who was a proud Balnago man, penned the story that Mary is going to share with us. Over to you, Mary.
This is the story of a man and his wife at the gates of heaven at the end of their life. The woman was in front with about a metre to spare, stepping it out with her nose in the air, with her thoughts on paradise only bent, and nothing could throw her off the scent. Her spouse behind her just shuffled along, was feeling the pain, but kept singing a song. In no hurry to cross the great divide, but one look from that woman made him hasten his stride. The woman was long and gaunt and thin, with a bit of a whisker under her chin. Her brow was wrinkled, her hair was grey, but her face showed no fear of the judgment day. The man was stumpy and loose and stout, his chest stuck in and his stomach out. His passport across was his only dread, though he hadn't a rib of hair in his head. Says she as they sighted the golden gates, "It's all your fault if we are late." St. Peter was asleep at the golden door. As the pair approached, they could hear him snore. The woman shook him awake and said, "Have you no respect for the newly dead? Oh, it's easy knowing you're not living with me. Did you not sleep enough in Gethsemane?" St. Peter sat up and yawned and sighed. "In what part of the world did you reside?" "In Castletown, Gagan," the woman said, "and for 40 years to this cull she wed." St. Peter turned and scratched his hair, saying, "I don't think we have anybody here from there. I was just going down to collect my pay, and I will have you know this is my half day. But since you have no representative in this place, I will make an exception and hear your case. Oh, I won't give you much delay, for I never strayed from the narrow way. I worked from dawn till the light grew dim, but I'm sorry I couldn't say the same for him. I told the neighbours all along where I was right and where they were wrong. I said if they didn't mend their way, they'd rue it all on Judgment Day. I preached them sermons loud and long, for my voice was good and my lungs was strong. So now, St. Peter, while I tidy me hair, slip up that steps there and order me chair. It has to be one where the view is good. That's one thing I want clearly understood. For in heaven I couldn't bear to dwell if I couldn't look down on the ones in hell. St. Peter was listening with great reserve, but the last remark must have cracked a nerve. For he threw his staff upon the floor and he ordered the woman to the back door. Then he reached up and rang the bell and said, "Show this woman the road to hell. Give her a chair up near the fire and don't let her move back until I retire." The old man picked up St. Peter's staff, and in spite of his troubles, he had to laugh. For the first time in 40 years felt free. "That shook you, Mrs. O'Grath," says he. But from force of habit he turned to go and follow the woman down below, for if she had received such a sentence grim, there was hardly much of a chance for him. He started down with his eyes on the floor, and he met St. Peter on the corridor. Said St. Peter, "How long to this woman have you been wed?" The old man stopped and scratched his head. "Herself says we're married for years 20, but to tell you the truth, I thought it was more." Said St. Peter, "'Twas a terrible cross to bear. 'Tis no wonder, poor man, that you've lost your hair. But now that you're out of your bed of pins, how did you work out as regards the sins?" Said the man, "And such matters now, I'm terrible raw. I'm not too well up in the canon law. But herself says I broke the commandments all, and the deadly sins 'd be me downfall. But for actual murder now, I couldn't be fined, though I admit the thought often crossed me mind. But of one sin, St. Peter, I'm entirely free. I never committed bigamy. For one thing's sure between me and you, one woman's enough, not to mention two." Said St. Peter, "That's as far as you have to go. I was married myself when I was down below. And I heard sharp remarks from both old and young, but never the likes of that woman's tongue. So now, good man, for your rich reward, step up the stairs there and meet the Lord. I'll get you the harp and the golden crown. Get up, St. Patrick, and let him sit down. For 'tis now, as it always was in the past, that the last shall be first, and the first shall be last." Thank you.
My heart is low, my heart is so low. It's only a woman's heart can be.
thank you, Niamh. And there you had great entertainment. As I told you, Mary Hughes would definitely put us all sitting and laughing there in our chairs. And of course, this is one of the disadvantages that we do have with the social media, because we all just wanted to burst out in laughter, have that great applause. And I know, Mary, for you sitting back there in your house looking at an empty screen and without that applause, you're wonderful just to keep going and be able to actually rise such great laughter from all of us. I was dying to hear the end of that story. And you know, what a brave woman she is to say, is one woman enough for anyone? The cheek of St. Peter. Well, we won't say any more about that now, Mary, there. And of course, then we were followed there by Maeve Hughes in that beautiful singing there of a woman's heart. So we're coming now towards the final part of our evening. And in that, you actually had a great variety there of our talent and our guests here this evening. I say again, we will send out an email to everybody with contact details for the people that participated. So, you know, if you want jewellery, if you want anything in that way, and of course, Caroline referred to the COVID pounds there. Well, I don't think that Katie Murphy will leave them on us for too long with the Wolfhound Fitness. So we will share all of that with you in that. So I'm going to hand over to our president very shortly, but just before I do that, I'm now just going to get a little bit very strong here because we're coming to the end. Behind our scenes, we just have one wonderful man, and I am saying a wonderful man, and that is Leo Colgan from IMS, who is our technical support, and I will say our safety net here this evening. So Leo, I'm telling you what to do now, rather than you telling me. I want you switch on your camera, because we as the panelists want to give you a round of applause for the support and the technical solution that you gave us. So very, very good. Leo. And Leo, without your help and without your sponsorship this evening, it wouldn't be possible for us to do that. I've come across Leo, and I can tell you a more professional, dedicated and committed person to your business requirement than you get for anything like this than you'll get from Leo. And Leo is living down there in Limerick beside our Ennis Soroptimists that have joined us, but he reaches out to all across the world. So if you have an event out there that you want media support, I can tell you Leo will be the man for you. So thank you, Leo, for that safety net and giving us the confidence for this evening.
Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome, Leo. And so just before, in handing over now to our president, Anne, I want to say on behalf of all my fellow Soroptimists here this evening, first of all, thank you, Anne, as being our president here this year. Anne came into our post here as being president during COVID, and what a horrible time to take up that post as president. There, going back 2 years ago, yes, it was on the journey. Anne was going to be our president. But Anne, during that time, you showed us great leadership and commitment and bringing us together as a team. And we are so delighted and so proud of you as having us there for our president. And long may we live, and we will continue to work together. So as your MC this evening, I'm delighted for your participation, and thank you all for joining. And it's my pleasure to hand over to Anne for our final closeout.
Thanks so much, Sarah. And thank you for your very kind words. As we near the end of our evening, really, I suppose I would just like to add my thanks really to all of the women that have shared their stories with us tonight, to Claire, to Katie, to Caroline, and to Helen, and also to those women that have entertained us, Sandra, Maeve and Mary. This is the time of the night normally when we would be able to acknowledge our appreciation with a little token, but ladies, we'll try and get some fresh blooms winging their way to you tomorrow, just to say a little thank you from everybody here. Sarah has mentioned Leo, and certainly I have to confess that I had no idea what organising a virtual event was like, and Leo put us through our paces last week in a very calm, measured way, and yeah, it really has run extremely smoothly. So Leo, thanks so much for all that you've done, not just tonight, but in the preparation for the event as well. It would be remiss of me if I didn't speak about our MC this evening. I think Sarah is very well known to Soroptimists, not just locally, but all over the country. And she's a multi-talented lady. And we've recently added a new title to her talents, and she's our technical ambassador because she has kept us all connected since we started our meetings remotely, and she's done just Trojan work since then. So thanks, Sarah, and thanks so much for emceeing this evening. Finally, before we have our sing out, one of our key partners that we work with here at local level in Mullingar is Westmeath County Council, and they have very kindly sponsored the event tonight as part of their Healthy Ireland, Healthy Westmeath, Keep Well campaign. So I just want to hand over very briefly to Annette Barr-Jordan, who is the Senior Executive Officer there with Westmeath County Council, and she's also the Age Friendly Programme Manager. So I'd just like to hand over to Annette just to say a few words before we go to our sing out.
Thanks very much, Anne. I suppose a very few words I just want to say. So I just want to say good evening to everybody and thank Anne and Sarah very much for the opportunity of being able to come to National Women's Day. This event has been really, really good. I suppose for myself, I'm here tonight not just as a woman, but also as a mother of 6 and a grandmother of 3. And I also work full-time with Westmeath County Council as the Acting Senior Executive Officer of the Community and Sports Section and the Age Friendly Programme. And I'm always really, really interested in hearing different people's stories and how they have met all of the challenges and they have moved through all the different spaces and places in their lives. And I suppose women in particular, that they have shown such great resilience, and the depth of resilience has brought them through the good and the bad times as well. And I believe we're surrounded all of the time with strong women, whether they're your mother, your sister, your granny, your neighbour, your friends. And those have made and have been traditionally carers, I suppose, in our society as well, but not just in traditional manner, but carers in the home, carers in the larger society. They care about the environment, care about our services, the local government, health, security, political life, and economic stability for all. And they've shown the amount of abilities that is there, and that has been very clearly shown through all our speakers here tonight as well. And I'd like to, I suppose, say thanks very much to the speakers. I've really, really enjoyed them. And the speakers have spoken to us something that Madeleine Albright, one of her quotes is, "It took me quite a time to find a voice, and now that I have it, I'm not going to be silent." And I suppose all our speakers tonight, they were very, very good, and they were not silent about how they've come through and how we can as women push forward and come through. And I suppose I'm lucky also to be the Age Friendly Programme Manager, and I've heard many stories from older people, older women, of where they started and their journey of how they brought older women where they are today, and keep learning about that. So it's great to be part of that. So I suppose in closing, I'm delighted to be able to support an event like this. And it's supported through the Age Friendly Programme and through the Westmeath Healthy Ireland Keep Well campaign. And that campaign, as you're aware, it works to support health and well-being for all. And tonight's event, it'll surely lift the spirits of all of those who have attended, and perhaps we'll be able to move forward as women, continue to move forward, stay connected, use our voice, and support well-being across our county as well. So thanks very much for the opportunity, Anne, and well done to all.
Thanks very much, Annette, and we look forward to continuing our partnership, working with yourselves on the various projects that we will be progressing over the next year. So thanks so much. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our event, and nothing further. I think remember those key words that our speaker shared with us of love and passion and resilience. And we look forward, hopefully, to better times and to being able to meet in person this time next year. So, Gomurnamuj Bio Aganam Shah Harish, and over to Sandra, who's going to sing us out.
Goodbye, my lovely friend, your bridges sigh no more. I hope we'll meet again, I've lost you now for sure. said it would end, but didn't have the heart to see us part. Now I must go. So goodbye, Venice, goodbye. I must leave you to die. Goodbye, Venice, goodbye. Goodbye, my love. Goodbye, Venice, goodbye. I must leave you to die. Goodbye, Venice, goodbye. Goodbye, my love. Reflections from the sea cast shadows in your hair. You came and sat by me beside St. Marco's Square. You said you were alone, love shining in your eyes. But Venice, though it's stone, beneath it all it dies. Oh yes, it dies, just like our love. So goodbye, Venice, goodbye. I must leave you to die. Goodbye, Venice, goodbye. Goodbye, my love. Goodbye, Venice, goodbye. I must leave you to die. Goodbye, Venice, goodbye. Goodbye, my love. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sandra Dolan. Delighted to be with you here this evening. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Wow.